Hi, so I'm back, and I'm not going to even bother to say what I always say because you already know. It's probably been 2 months since I had a video up. I didn't even look because it is what it is. Let's just move on. It's good to see you. It's good to be seen. Enjoy the video that I'm about to do. Okay, we've covered that. So I figured while I'm finishing up some other books, because my problem is I started reading a book and I'm almost done. Like literally, I'm 85% done with the next book I want to review. Something else called mine, another book. I started it, put the book out. I was this close to being done. I'm gonna finish it because it's a really good book and I'm really enjoying it. And yeah, I'm taking my time with it. I don't want to rush the process because it's a meaningful book to me. Well, we'll get to that. I'll get to it at some point. I don't know when. So what I decided to do in the meantime is to kind of do a lot of books with a theme. And so what I decided to do was do a Black Girl Magic fiction collection. Now, if you're like me and you're a mystical black woman or a mystical black man who doesn't mind fiction that is generally geared towards women, and a lot of y'all don't, that's cool. Sometimes you just want to read something that's not necessarily, just overwhelmingly deep and knowledgeable. But you don't want anything fluffy and mainstream either like that. You're not even, you don't care. You don't watch reality television. You barely watch television. So if you pick up a book, even when you're not trying to learn something, you need to be learning something. And that's kind of my thing. I just can't read just mundane stuff. It's why? That's a waste of my time. That's like listening to bad music or watching reality television for the most part. So I decided to put a list together of books that I have enjoyed over the years, and hopefully this will, kind of give you all some ideas of what you'd like to read. So before I even get into that, the collection, and it is substantial, let's just take care of this because I know I'm going to hear this, is why didn't you do any books by Octavia Butler? Okay, first of all, I love Octavia Butler. She goes beyond being a writer. She's a goddess. Like, I got to see her speak once. I read all of her books, I think maybe except for one or two. Huge Octavia Butler fan. But generally, if you're asking me why I didn't do a video about Octavia Butler, you've already read the books. Generally, if you're watching this video, you already know who Octavia Butler is. And if I'm saying a name that you don't know, like Octavia Butler, I'm going to need you to go ahead and go to Amazon and just go and order the whole collection. Just go and do it. Save yourself some time. You'll thank me later. Put the comments down below. Because she is the bomb. Black science fiction, woman-oriented, spiritual. Everything you need is in her books. Go and get them. Just do yourself a favor. I'm doing this for you. But if you have read Octavia Butler's books and you're kind of looking for some other stuff, I got you. So my first book is, and once again, this is one of those books that if you're a black mystic or a witch or a magical person or however you want to term yourself, if you don't have this book in your collection, I'm really kind of wondering why. So my first book and this is really fiction. It's not fiction at all. It's just one of my favorites. And this is Jambalaya by Luisah Teish. And this is my copy. And it is beat up. Like, literally, I have taped this book together. This is my second copy that I have destroyed. I love this book. Like, this book is always in my collection. If something happens to this book, God forbid, I will be ordering another one like the next day. It's not an option. So it's a little bit of her memoir. It's a little bit of magic. It's rituals. It's everything you want from Black Girl Magic. Right there. And she wrote this like back in the 80s, I believe. And This is great for if you're new on the path, if you just want a refresher, if you're new to African spirituality, that's generally dealing with more of the Yoruba culture. As an intro, this is an awesome book. So that's number one. Get it. It's worth it. Second book. And I hope, I'm looking at this stack and I'm like, okay, at some point my little head's gonna dip down and y'all ain't gonna see me because I gotta get to the bottom. So, second book, one of my other favorites, and this is beat up too because I've had this book forever. Probably longer than I've had Jambalaya. Like, this was the book that one of the books that kind of opened my eyes. And this is by one of my favorite authors, and this is Ntozage, Shange, Sassafrass, Cypress, and Indigo. And this book is about three sisters growing up in Charleston, South Carolina, which, if I'm not mistaken, is where the author is from, and their different experiences. Indigo is the magical child. She's probably the most one who's in touch with her magic. She's the baby. She's the one who hears spirits, and her story is really interesting. She has this musical gift. Love Indigo. Cypress is a dancer. She's kind of a full-figured girl who does African dance, who explores her sexuality in ways that her sisters do not. And then we have Sassafrass. Sassafrass is the one who loves men and has issues. She has a challenging relationship, and she has a debt to pay to the gods. And it also deals with their mom, and just kind of raising these three very different girls who came of age probably, I'm thinking in the 70s, because when I bought it, this book came out in the 80s, and just dealing with being a black girl, a black Geechee girl in the 70s, and dealing with that spirituality. And if y'all didn't know, I am a Geechee girl by way of my grandmama on my mama's side. So, great book. Love this book. I probably go back. This is probably one of those books like even if I don't, maybe not every year, but at least every other year I go back and read it because it kind of reminds me. My books are like friends. Like, I like to go back and visit them and see why I love them. Number 3. So, another classic. Hallie did the movie. I don't care what nobody said. I loved that movie. Their Eyes Were Watching by Zora and Hurston. And Zora's kind of like, if you have Octavia Butler, you need to have Zora Neale Hurston in your collection. At least this one. Because the love story between Janie and Tea Cake, it just did something to me. And just her, discovering who she was and coming into her womanliness and just enjoying the experience of a man. And just good stuff right there. So you need that. So now we go more into the sci-fi fantasy, and this is Nalo Hopkinson, Brown Girl in the Ring. And this is more science fiction, which I happen to love. I love black science fiction. I love Afrofuturism, anything kind of in that genre, because I love how they combine the spiritual and the technological, and just envisioning the future for us. So, Brown Girl in the Ring. And this is just really, it's really an Afrofuturist novel before that term even came out, because I've had this one a long time too, and it's just dealing with spirits and duppies, more of that, kind of that Jamaican vibe, a little bit of the Orisha thrown in there, and lineages and reincarnation. There are a lot of great mythic, cosmic things in this book. Highly recommend it. Love this one. So, now, when I first bought this book, I struggled. Like, I was a kid. And I was like, I know this book is meaningful, but I'm not sure what it means. So, I read it, and it awakened something in me, but I wasn't sure what that something was. And I, started really coming into my awakening, went back and read it. I was like, oh, I get it. There's so many things that were hit on that I didn't get when I was younger, that when I got older, I was able to embrace. So, this is also, she's also one of my favorite writers, is The Salt Eaters by Toni, Cade, Bambara. And this book, I would say, is one of the books that made me want to be a healer. Because one of the main characters, I remember her asking a woman who basically tried to kill herself, said, "So do you want to be healed, sweetheart?" And I realized that healing was a choice. People can come to you, they can give you their money. It's ultimately up to them if they really want to be healed, if that's a place where they are. And it's also dealing with the fact that even when you heal, it may not necessarily mean that your body's healed. It means that your spirit is healed and that you'll evolve and go into the next round. So, love it. Once again, this is probably a vintage copy because I keep my books forever. Now this is written by a brother, but this is one of the best love stories. This is juicy. And this guy is actually, the guy who wrote is a professor. He's also a conjure man. And I believe he's a jazz musician or a blues musician down there from the Delta. And this is a story of, it's called Another Good Loving Blues by Arthur Flowers. So this is the story of Lucas Bodine and Melvina Dupree. Lucas Bodine is a blues man. And Melvina Dupree is a juju woman. She's a hoodoo woman. She just tells you what she is. And she's really honest about what she is. She tells the man when he meet her, "Hoodoo, what?" I mean, she's not like that, but he's like, "Okay, I'm a blues man, so you can't get me." But it just kind of tells about their trials and tribulations, his issues with addictions, and it takes place probably the early part of the 20th century. So it's like the 20s, 30s, around that time when they were still hanging black people from trees and sharecropping and things like that. So you get to see it, and it's very colorfully written. It's very magical. Great, great book. So this one, I remember I was like in high school when I read it, and it scared me. I remember after I went through it, and at the end, I just didn't see the end coming, and I was like, "Oh my God, he's dead." I didn't know he had died and that he was a spirit and he was talking, and that kind of freaked me out. I think I slept with the lights on that night because I was like, even though I knew that the truth was out there, I was still, in that traditional Judeo-Christian religion where people didn't talk to spirits. I'd heard about it, but so now that I'm older, I'm like, oh, well, doesn't everybody talk to spirits? You don't? Really? Your ancestors don't talk to you? Are you sure you're just not listening? So, that is another great love story, Mama Day by Gloria Naylor. And it deals with a young woman who grew up Geechee. And she leaves the island, meets a man, marries him, a man who basically has no family, and takes him back to her grandmother and her aunt, who was Mama Day, who's kind of like one of the most powerful hoodoo women in these islands. And it's very Geechee, and dealing with that, and it's very, sacrifices had to be made so that people could live, and things that had to be done. And just dealing with the history of this particular sea island was amazing to me. Like, it made me want to know more about the sea islands and the culture of black people on the sea islands, which is how I kind of discovered that I was Geechee, because no one had told me in my family. Just happened to be having a conversation with one of my great aunts, and she just kind of was like, "Oh yeah, well, yeah, you're on my mama's side, blah blah." And I was like, "Wait a minute, this is you never, no one ever mentioned this. Like, no, how do you not mention that?" I guess anyway. Anywho, so next book. This is for those who want something a little bit maybe more contemporary, more on the the fiction side, and this is for a particular genre. I happen to like books about vampires, and this one was a really interesting twist on vampires. And this is called um, The Gilda Stories by Jewelle Gomez. And it is, in case you're not really feeling, just in case any of y'all homophobic, and I really hope that's not true. That would really make me sad. Um, it highlights the gay and lesbian experience. So there's not really any gay sex, but it does definitely show affection between women and creating this community within this vampire world. Really interesting book. I really enjoyed it. I keep it in my collection. I haven't reread it in quite a while, but it taught me a lot about human connection and finding family where you can. So it was extremely powerful for me. And we're coming to the end, good, because I didn't really want to make like a 60-minute video. I don't talk that much, honestly. Like, I'm just kind of say what I need to say. So this is the book that really awakened me. And this isn't my original copy. I looked up on this copy, and I think, like, I looked up and got it at a used bookstore, and I believe this is one of their original copies. I didn't even know till one day I just happened to look, and I think I posted it on my Instagram. I was like, oh my goodness, like, this book means the world to me. And it's by one of my favorite writers, and it is Alice Walker, and it is Temple of Mount Familiar. And as you can see, like I said, this is like my third copy. Once again, this is one of those books that I just love this book because this taught me about the goddess and really how we were the first witches. I didn't know. And I remember reading this and just being in awe and not even knowing what to think. Like, I remember being at work, I was a 20-something, and was just reading it like, I don't really even know what I'm reading, but something about this is ringing extremely true to my spirit. So this book is sort of a sequel to The Color Purple. There are some characters from The Color Purple that are in this book, and like Miss Seeley is in the book, and Mr. and her Seeley's children are in the book, and it just kind of deals with family lineage, but it really deals a lot with reincarnation. My favorite character in this book is Miss Lissy. Miss Lissy this was before even locks. People were doing locks before locks were cool, you know. Miss Lissy had just a head full of silver gray locks, and she remembered all of her past lives and having past lives with other people and just the experiences, and she really breaks them down to this brother. And what is hilarious about this is Miss Lissy is a pot smoker. Like, she just gives no F's. Like, she's 80, she just doesn't care. Like, she's like, whatever, I'm gonna be who I am. This is it. Deal with it. Love her. Now, one of her sayings is, they have lied about me, they have lied about everything. And if that ain't the gospel, what? Stop. 2 more, and then we're done. So this is not an author who's really well known, and I never understood why, because she's a fantastic writer. She deals a lot with the ancestral realm, and like, she wrote 2 books, and in addition to this book, and like, I never heard anything about her. Like, no one was mentioning her, and I'm one of those people, like, I will find the obscure and be like, we're sleeping on this? This is awesome. So that's why I'm doing this also, because I think a lot of these books have been slept on by our community, and I want to, spotlight them so people know that they're there. So this is Sandra Jackson Opoku, and The River Where Blood is Born. And it deals a lot with ancestors. It tells the story of this particular lineage, family lineage, and it kind of interweaves between the family lineage and current time. So you just kind of see the ancestors going, Okay, that one's got to reincarnate. Okay, come on back, honey. We understand you. Okay, we gonna work with you. We gonna get you another lifetime because you kind of jacked that one up. But it's cool because we know that this thing goes in cycles, so we're not stressing it. And just like how we learn to deal with ancestral reverence and going back to our ways and picking up things where we find them, just reconnecting. So, not science fiction, but an excellent book. She wrote another book called Hot Johnny and the Women Who Loved Him, and I remember I was like, that book that's one of my favorites too, but I love this one more. But like that book, I cried at the end. There was just nothing else to do but cry. It was just she's such a good writer, and she only wrote, as far as I know, 2 books. If y'all find out she wrote more, let me know because I think she's a great writer. And this one is an honorable mention. And I'm putting it in here because, first of all, my copy was given to me by someone who I loved extremely deeply. And I will always treasure it because when he saw it, he thought of me, and I had actually been looking for this book. So, and it's like one of the earlier editions. I don't know if it's the original. As a matter of fact, I'm going to look. And he signed it for me. It's a third printing, but it's still an early printing. It's not my favorite book. It's just not. And I'm going to probably catch a lot of flack for this because I don't think it was that well written. But it has such sentimental value for me, and the simple fact that a black woman wrote this book about a black woman makes it extremely, extremely valuable. So, please don't trash me. It's an opinion, and opinions are like what? Everybody has one. I just don't think it's that. I just didn't think it was that well written. I just think it could have been done better, and maybe because it was a translation as well. So, this is I, Tituba, Black Witch of Salem. And if you consider yourself a black witch or a black mystical person or interested in ancestral religion, just historically, this is a great book to have. I just feel like it's one of those books that even if it's not the most well-written book in the world, and I need to stop saying that before somebody hunts me down, you should just have it because how many black witches make history? Like American history. We have people that we know in our community, our healers and our teachers and our wise women and our wise men and our elders, but ours was a major publication, and it deserves honor for being that alone. So that concludes my black witchy book fiction something. I'll come up with a title, but that kind of concludes the entire thing. I hope this is, giving you some great books to look at, some books to check out. And if you have more, because by no means my collection is not over, let me know. And I'm actually looking for more black mystical books. Because like I said, sometimes I just don't want to read, Sometimes my brain just needs a little break. So let me know. If you've read any of those books, I'd like to know what you thought about them. And let's build a conversation. All right. Peace and love.